Welcome back to the HeroC Podcast. Glad everyone decided to join us, and if not, shame on you for not tuning in sooner. This month, being December, the end of the year of 2014, I will just have to say, what a year. It has been highs and lows, and some things are great, and other things just stunk outright.
Indeed.
But want to welcome my guests here today. I've got a couple of guests on this podcast for December. Joining me are
Jerome
and
Hi, I'm Keith.
Excellent. Thanks, guys.
Hey, did you do a test sample to see if it's going to pick him up from over there? Okay.
Sure did, and he's actually coming quite loud.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, that's why we closed the doors and turned all the echoes off and cut off the annoying phones and stop asking questions and jump right in, right?
I probably should have asked that question before we...
Yeah, but now it's too late, so we've already discussed it, so there you go. Oh my gosh.
Screwed up, man.
And for the rest of you out there listening, ignore that. And welcome to the podcast, HeroC Podcast, where we talk about primarily our 5 C's. Comics, characters, communications, creativity, and no. Not openly in this wrong podcast. But we'll leave that with connections. Yeah, there we go. That's where that will fall under. Okay? Connections.
As long as it fits in there somewhere.
There you go. Okay, guys. As we promised last month, for those who are joining us this month, we were going to be focusing on Marvel versus DC.
Dun, dun, dun!
Industry-wise, film, animation, comics, our basics, what the pros and cons are of each. And we tabled it till this month because we knew this was going to take quite a bit of discussion.
Indeed.
So I want to preface the podcast with just a couple of news items. One deals with the pages that I just passed around to the group. Those are actual image designs from NASA. Harold White took those designs and mocked them up for the first Translite spaceship. They're looking at developing a warp bubble type engine like Star Trek to work with what they did in CERN, where they actually compress space. And so they said, well, what would this ship look like?
Yeah.
What could NASA say? Okay, well, we have no money left because we've milked the public for everything they've had, and let's just take it for a few billion more. And let's see, what would it look like? Let's pay somebody to draw it up. And so he actually went back to his original designs from what they did with Star Trek, 1960s. And they found some of these originals, and they finished them up in CAD-CAM and came up with this format as a workable prototype for a Translite engine. A ship that might actually be able to fold 2 points of space and traverse from one point to the next using Einstein's theory, as a viable, once we find the energy enough to fuel it, we can actually force space around the bubble and move great distances, almost like a wormhole.
I don't buy it.
You don't buy it?
I mean,
you're going to pay for it, trust me, when they try it.
You
may not buy it.
And as the old adage goes, why buy one when you can have two
for
at double
twice
the price?
Exactly.
Can you name the movie that came from?
That came out of Contact.
Yes, it did.
With Jodie Foster.
Yeah. I just think it's far-fetched. I mean, it's science fiction at this point.
Well,
they're saying it's plausible.
Yeah.
But anything's plausible. Nothing is impossible. But
no, some things are impossible.
No, nothing is impossible. Mathematically
maybe
proving.
Improbable, but it's not impossible.
Mathematically proving that nothing is impossible.
Well, some things for us. For somebody out there in the universe, it's not impossible. Someone or something.
But my point is, you just said that that this is a workable sketch or whatever.
Yeah,
they're looking for the fuel element to power it. Well, Jesus H. Crazy.
Yeah.
We should probably find that first before we even bother with building
I would say
planning.
the same thing. But if they had stuck to that logic, you wouldn't have cell phones right now from the 1960s when they started working on Star Trek as science fiction. Ray Bradbury and all of his cronies and Vonnegut, Gibson, all those writers had all that technology written out in their stories.
You mean Gene Roddenberry?
No, Vonnegut with
You
Blade.
said Ray
Bradbury designed a lot of the technical equipment for the science fiction around those times. Gene Roddenberry used Ray Bradbury's designs
I didn't know
when he was writing. Yeah, see, it's just a matter of this. The science fiction element of it taking place is you have to have the desire and the imagination for it to become reality.
But there's a difference. I mean, there really is a difference. That started off as fiction, and then science. Okay, shut up. I just made my own. Shut up.
I would not be worried about bringing this point up if it weren't for the fact that the U.S. Navy and DARPA have already mounted a 320-foot railgun to the deck of the battleship. Okay, they're using the Pacific testing now, which uses electromagnetic waves to propel large aluminum bolts up to 10 miles away to blow things up in plasma form. Okay, the energy is right around the corner. Now, harnessing it, that's what CERN is trying to do over in Switzerland. Okay.
I just think it's a little far-fetched, and we probably ought to spend our tax dollars on other, better used things.
They're not gonna spend it on what they need to. They haven't spent it on anything what they needed to for years.
I know
Why
they
start
haven't.
now?
I'm saying they should.
Fair enough.
Why start now? I mean, I thought the whole point of them shutting down the NASA program was to not shoot rockets into space. And guess what? They just shot Orion into space. So they don't even stand by their own fallacies.
Well,
What government does.
it's a phallic entity.
Quite. Very much so, very quite. I just thought what was really funny is the fact that looks like it fell right off of J.J. Abrams' drawing desk for the next Star Trek villain, okay, in the new movie. I thought that was a little bit grandiose to sit back and say, hey, this is what it's going to look like when you don't know what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
But it's a really cool design, and I'd like to see it in a movie somewhere.
I mean, yeah, if we're talking about, designs for movies and stuff,
Yeah.
then yes, by all means.
Creativity is my
But
point.
they don't even know how the engine, they don't have an engine or the relative how it's going to work. So why are we getting pictures of what it's going to look like when we don't even have a working engine?
Because you have to start somewhere. And
Then
you have
start with drawing the engine and see if that can be made.
Well, the aspiration of wanting it to happen is always going to happen way before the actual doing it. Whether it's going to Mars or landing a probe on a comet that's been circling the universe.
And you know what? If you had shown me those tomorrow, I would have been in a different mood, I guess, and been all about it because, a friend of mine and I, shout out to Petter. What's up, dog? We have discussions about space travel and bending time and connecting 2 points in space and light jumping. We have that discussion all the time. But, today it's just like, I want my money to be spent in better places.